create emotional connection. And by that, I mean understanding every team member's whys, what drives them, what's their motivation, and understanding them. If you can build up that emotional connection, all of a sudden you have the word trust. You build trust within your team.
What is your proudest achievement on and off the pitch?
So my proudest achievement on and off the pitch, I would say, has to be, there's two things. I'm going to say one, winning a Rugby World Cup was incredibly special. So in 2014, my England team won a World Cup out in France. And that was a huge achievement because the England women's team hadn't done it for 20 years. So the last time was back in 1994, and the men had obviously done it in 2003. So that was significant. But I'd say my real proudest achievement for me had to be, changing the perception of women's rugby. Where I play, people would say that, the women's game is more physical and aggressive. And so being part of that change and getting people to sort of respect and acknowledge women's rugby. And I'd say those two things, plus also getting a degree and a master's, it has been significant as well to myself. But there's been plenty of things, but I'd probably say those are the key things that stand out to me.
As a pioneer of growth and interest in women's rugby, what advice would you give women in a male-dominated sport and in business industries?
So the advice I would give to women in a male-dominated industry or environment would be to be authentic, so be yourself. One of the biggest challenges that I had when I first came into, I would say, a male-dominated environment when working in broadcasting was that I almost tried to be like the men around me. I lost myself, if I'm honest, and that was really evident. I wasn't being myself. I wasn't enjoying my experiences working in that environment. So I'd encourage women to be their authentic self, back themselves as well, have confidence in themselves. For some reason, when we're in that environment, we feel like we shouldn't speak up, or we feel like our voice shouldn't be heard, or we feel like it isn't being heard. So I think it's important to recognise it's not necessarily the person who is the issue, it's the environment that is probably more of a responsibility and is causing the problem. So I would say for those women in those environments, back themselves, make sure their voice is heard, be their authentic self. Don't be afraid to interrupt or, challenge. I think that's incredibly important. So I would say those are the key bits of advice that I would give to them. And I'm not going to say it's easy because it isn't, but I have found in the environment that I work in with regards to broadcasting in particular, I'm part of the team, and my gender or my race is not a conversation anymore. It's about what I know, and that's the key thing now.
Do you think we have achieved equality in rugby and sport in general?
Do I feel we've achieved equality in rugby and sport in general? I would say we are not there yet. We have progressed significantly. If we talk about rugby in particular, when I came into sport back in, I'd say, 1999, women's rugby wasn't very popular. It wasn't common for girls to take up the sport in school. So I guess back then it wasn't normal, let's just say, for women or girls to play the sport. And now we fast forward to 2023, and it is quite common for women and girls to play the sport, but there are still areas of inequality with regards to, pay. Facilities are improving now. We're starting to see more rugby clubs that are very much equipped to women and girls taking up the sport, and they're much more welcoming now. But we've still got those inequalities. It's progressing and it is improving, and we see that across sport generally. There was a stage when you probably would say women and girls wouldn't play football. Now, wow, it's a dominant sport for women and girls. So I would say we are progressing, we're moving forward. women are getting paid to play, but there are still areas of improvement. We're not where our ultimate aim would be. So we've got areas to improve, but there is massive progression. And we're now starting to see sponsors, focus on sponsoring the women's sides, where previously it would just be the men's sides. Now you see contracts be discussed that they want to sponsor both men's and women's teams. So we are progressing, we are moving forward. Probably not where we want to be yet, but we're definitely on the right direction.
How must businesses recognise events like Black History Month?
I would say the best way businesses can recognise Black History Month would be to have events, get people to share their stories. I think that's very important. Shine a spotlight on the good work that's currently been done, as well as acknowledging, some of the areas where there's been challenges or areas that need improvement. Some of the best work that I've seen from a lot of businesses have been just to put on events, get people to share their stories. It's a lot of celebration. I think we need to continue to shine a spotlight on some of the good work that has been done, on people's journeys, what they've achieved along the way. But again, we must not shy away from where we need improvement as well. And as businesses, how do we ensure that we are being transparent, and also talking about what we need to do to move forward? So I would say the best way for businesses to ensure that they acknowledge Black History Month is to put on events, work with their diversity and inclusion working groups if they got that, or Black networks, to find ideas and the best way to ensure that they really land the month and get different voices and different stories across from within the business.
Why is diversity and inclusion important to a workplace?
Diversity and inclusion is important to a workplace because it's an opportunity for people to bring their whole selves to the workplace. I think that's very important. We need people to feel like they can be acknowledged and recognised within the business environment, regardless of what is perceived to be their differences. And by that, I mean, gender, race, sexuality, faith, disability, whatever it may be. We want people to bring their whole selves to work, to feel like their perspectives and their voices are being heard or being acknowledged. And research has shown greater diversity in roles, in leadership roles in particular, creates better businesses. We're acknowledging our members, we're acknowledging those that are our clients and those that are our customers as well. So it's important because we need to hear different voices and understand different perspectives, and diversity brings that.
What are the key attributes to creating a high-performance team?
The key attributes to creating a high-performing team are, from my perspective, collaboration. The best teams are able to work together and utilise every member or every person in that team's strengths. So collaboration. I would say the next key thing would be to create emotional connection. And by that, I mean understanding every team member's whys, what drives them, what's their motivation, and understanding them. If you can build up that emotional connection, all of a sudden you have the word trust, build trust within your team. So collaboration, emotional connection, and then to add on to that, trust. I would also say the best teams that I've been a part of that have been high-performing teams are teams that are not afraid to check and challenge. So what they say, create good conflict. If you've got good conflict and you've got it from a safe space, all of a sudden you're not afraid to push each other, but you're pushing each other in a way that you're trying to create improvement. So that would be another area that would be very key. And I would say that another high-performing trait would be that level of accountability. So being able to recognise when, things have gone well and you've been part of that, and other people have been part of that, and acknowledging that, but also when things haven't gone so well, and actually how do team members own their mistakes, but not in a way that's going to create negativity, but again about how we create problem solving and moving forward. And there are various different models out there that talk about high performing teams and how to create a high performing team. It's easier said than done. It does take time, and it's important to get buy-in and that shared goal as well, that shared vision, that everyone feels like they're moving in the right direction.
What advice would you give to create a better and more inclusive team?
The advice that I would give to create a more inclusive team would be to make sure leaders hear different perspectives from different people within the team. So sometimes we have a tendency of hearing perspectives but making our own decision as a leader. How do we ensure that we hear from everyone and that we we answer problems in a way that ensures that we've taken everyone's perspectives or experience into account? So that creates a level of inclusivity. When we talk about diversity and inclusion, they say diversity is inviting people to the dance, but actually inclusion is about inviting people to dance, and that's really important. How do we ensure that we are asking the right questions to seek understanding? How do we ensure that everyone's voice is being heard to enable us to make the right response, to provide the right answer to a question? So it's important that we actually do seek the views of those around us.
Maggie, thank you so much. It's been amazing speaking with you, and thank you so much for your time and answering all my questions.
Thank you very much.